My name is MJ Shiao. I'm the global lead for renewables and emerging technologies for GTM Research and Wood Mackenzie. I'm super excited that all of you are here today because we have a fantastic show focused on a very important part of the solar industry, being the solar software space. We're gonna, before Paul Grana from Folsom Labs and I kind of talk about our views and what we're seeing within the solar software space, I'm gonna go over some quick housekeeping notes. So very important information. Can't have software without Wi-Fi these days. So here's the network, here's the password. Make sure also that we have demos going on for Eagle View Technologies as well as Folsom Labs during that first networking break. And they're going to be back in that main area where you all had breakfast. Later tonight, we'll also have a speed networking session as well as a happy hour. So be sure to save some energy for those as well. And yes, all these presentations will be given out after the show. You'll fill out a survey. You'll tell us how great we all are and how good of a job we've done, and then we'll give you this. Throughout today's conference, we're going to have a platform, or we're going to have a website, gtm.cnf.io. And go ahead and log into that now. That'll give you the ability to answer and respond to any poll questions that we have, as well as ask the moderators to suggest questions to the moderators. Moderators will have an iPad up here. They'll be able to see the questions. You can vote those up, and then we'll be able to seamlessly integrate those into our sessions today. So once again, gtm.cnf.io. Because you're already having such a great time at this conference, please do join us for some of the other exciting events that we have just later on this month. More on the utility sector, but looking at energy storage versus natural gas in the electricity marketplace. Grid Edge Innovation Summit, talking about the transformation of utility and smart and grid technologies at the grid edge. Our Power Renewable Summit and our Energy Storage Summit at the end of the year as well. And you can use the code alumni to take 15% off any of that registration. Finally, thank you to our sponsors. Big thank you to Folsom Labs for helping us with some of the content and also just, in fact, even bringing the idea of having a solar software summit to us 3 years ago now. So we're very excited to have this going on our third year. Thank you to also folks like at Eagle View, FTC, Locust, Site, and SolarLog for also supporting us and putting on this event for you all today too. Sorry, one more note. Again, just there are going to be demos. So at these times, if you're looking for training feedback or just looking at some of the coming features within Folsom Labs, within Folsom's Labs tools, be sure to join them during the networking breaks and lunch at these times. All right, so before I hand over the stage to Paul, I do want to talk about what GTM Research is seeing and why we think solar software is such a critical piece of the industry right now. I've been in solar for over a decade now, and just thinking about even just the past 10 years, I sort of think that there's been 3 constants in this market. The first, and those 3 constants are every year the solar industry is going to experience falling solar costs. It's going to see year-on-year growth in installed volumes. And then we're going to have these rapidly shifting emotions that go from, oh my gosh, solar is so great, there's nothing that can stop us, to, oh my God, did you see the latest headline? Solar is doomed. And the more highs those highs are, the more lows those lows are, determine how many times you're going to hear the phrase, well, it's just another year on the solar coaster, right? But 2017 was a strange year. Solar costs held their end of the bargain. We did see, despite module prices rising by close to 40% within the year because of what was happening with the Section 201 tariff case and with China demand. Despite that happening, solar costs actually did fall for many of the sectors in the US. But 2017 was the first year that I can remember where the US didn't add more or didn't grow in terms of annual deployment of solar. Now, of course, some of this was already expected, right? We had this threatened ITC expiry in 2016 that pulled a lot of the demand from outer years back into 2016. And certainly with the tariff discussion, we also did see some impact within 2017, but most of that impact, about 11% decline in what we expect for the market going forward. But there are some concerning trends within the industry too. First of all, distributed solar seems to be slowing down. After years and years of record growth, um, we saw we saw a little bit of a slowdown and even stagnation within residential and non-residential solar. And it's easy to just say, "Oh, well, it's because Solar City or some of these other national installers are just, pulling back in terms of their growth plans and shutting down volumes." And that to a certain extent was true, right? If we look at, 2016, we saw this quote unquote revenge of the long tail, right? These local installers are suddenly taking over the market, and they're the ones that are going to, carry us forward and be the driver of volume growth. But that did change in 2017 as well, where it wasn't just the national installers that were shrinking, but also the local installers as well. Small commercial is also starting to fade against, as these incentives that we're targeting helping small commercial solar, um, as those incentives dry up, small commercial is fading in the background to larger commercial. And even utility scale solar, we see that the pipelines in terms of what's being contracted out there is also slowing down as well. Now, again, some of this is due to the ITC expiry threat in 2016 and as well as Section 201 and folks freezing their pipelines. But we're still waiting to see, more we're still waiting to see the pipeline for utility solar in terms of contracted systems, contracted capacity grow again as well. But here's the other side of things. There are still good things that are happening. First of all, the market historically has been very centered around California. California has been the bedrock. But going forward, despite even with the solar industry growing in the next 5 years at almost double what it did the past 5 years, California is a smaller and smaller piece of that. And we're seeing big states like Texas and Florida emerge as well. And that's because utility solar, for example, is starting to beat the alternatives or beat the incumbents. Right now, just as a sorry, in the past few years, solar was competing head to head with natural gas, and now where PPAs are being signed, it's actually beating what new build natural gas can build at in many state markets. And even looking at the other side of the coin, you're starting to see good investment theses occur for things as focused and as small as residential solar plus storage. Even in states like you have states like Massachusetts where you have these incentives programs that are targeting solar plus storage, and even in California without the S-chip program, you can still see very strong returns for residential solar plus storage as well. So there are really good bright spots. So, and as a result, we continue to expect solar to scale. We've hit, as the end of last year, over 50 gigawatts of solar in the ground, and that's quite an achievement. And in the next 5 years, by early the next decade, we're going to see that double. We're going to see almost 100 gigawatts of solar capacity in the ground by 2020, 2021. And in parallel, we're seeing a lot of discussion about solar being more than just this energy asset, more than something that pumps kilowatt hours, megawatt hours onto the grid, into something that can provide not only these soft environmental benefits, but actual things like transmission distribution, avoiding transmission and distribution losses, things like grid services, and then eventually really valuing solar at the location, looking at how it can be built into uh, grid planning and other services that utilities and network operators are looking at as well. So all of this is transforming, but transformation needs to be more than just a set of buzzwords, and it has to be more than just talking about digitalization or more than machine learning or automation. And we have to look at platforms as more than just saying blockchain will solve everything, and have to actually look at what applications make sense and could actually lead us to this growing future. And I guess that's why we're excited for today's Solar Software Summit. Because, and Paul will get into this a little bit more, but Green Tech Media and Folsom Labs put together this survey and sent this survey out to folks about how they're using software, about what they think of what their processes are and what they're thinking about. And one of the questions we asked is what are your needs that are still unmet? What could be done with software? And if you look at the left-hand side and you look at these needs like, looking better, faster utility rates or permit databases or construction site creation, I'm sure if we pulled this room, we could each find 5, maybe even more vendors for each of these needs out there. And yet, a quarter to half of the folks that filled out the survey, which is a pretty wide swath of people, either don't know what's out there or haven't found a good solution for it. So that's, again, why we have a critical need for the discussions we're going to have today is to figure out how can we meet those needs, how can we um, better not only show folks what we have, but also better create the tools to really, again, allow the industry to have the tools necessary to not only scale the industry, but also to transform how solar is deployed and valued. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Paul Grana from Folsom Lab.